Jobin from Haymarket. This is the Rorschach, Georgia update from the 20th of August, 2026. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Very sorry we missed last week, but we're back. On Monday the 17th, the former Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, who is currently serving a 5-year sentence on corruption charges, published an open letter from prison. He accused the current leadership of the party of pressuring him to confess to other corruption charges, which he has no connection to. Garibashvili said this is done to make sure he will never return to politics. This marks the first time a former Ivanishvili loyalist has turned on him publicly. The next day, he followed up with another letter, writing that the entire anti-corruption campaign was aimed at him from the start, which rings true, as most of the people arrested this year as part of the campaign were from his circle. Speaking of corruption, on Friday the 14th, former Economy Minister Deputy Romeo Mikhautadze testified in the trial of former State Security Service Chief Grigol Liloashvili, telling prosecutors that he personally delivered cash to Liloashvili after collecting it as bribes from businessmen. Mikhautadze, who himself is serving a 10-year sentence for financial crimes, testified remotely from prison. According to the prosecutor, Mikhautadze described 2 cases in which he collected money from businessmen at Liloashvili's request, then handed it directly to him inside the headquarters of the State Security Service. One businessman also testified that Mikhautadze demanded money from him, presenting the payment to be in the interest of the state. On Saturday the 8th, Georgia marked the 18th anniversary of the Russo-Georgian War. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze used the occasion to again blame former President Misha Saakashvili for starting the war. Kobakhidze pointed to a European Council resolution saying it showed the conflict escalated into full-scale war after Georgian forces shelled Tskhinvali, the capital of South Ossetia. South Ossetia officials replied by saying that Kobakhidze admitted that Georgia was the aggressor in the war, but saying that responsibility lies with the whole country, not just Saakashvili. On Wednesday the 12th, Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze confirmed the rumors that fuel is being sent from Georgian-controlled territory into occupied Abkhazia. He said private businesses are doing the supplying and that Georgia's occupation law allows this in certain cases. Under the law, economic activity in occupied territories is only allowed with special government approval and only if it serves Georgia's national interest, supports a peaceful resolution, or helps people affected by the conflict. Abkhazia is dealing with a severe fuel shortage right now, driven by disruption in Russian supplies after the Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries. Related news, on Friday the 7th, Romanian pop group Morandi played a sold-out concert in Sukhumi, the capital of Abkhazia. This was a part of the tour that also included stops in Russia and Belarus. Romania's foreign minister condemned the show. The band called the decision apolitical, saying music has only one homeland, the human heart. One founding member skipped the tour without explanation, while the other says they'll play wherever they're invited, including Ukraine someday. In Abkhazia, many locals welcomed the rare visit from a globally known act, though some criticized local officials for not marking the occasion properly. Georgia's government has issued no official response. On Wednesday the 12th, a minibus carrying tourists crashed on the road from Gomismta to Ozergeti in western Georgia, killing 4 people and injuring 16 others. 4 people who died were Belarusian citizens. The Interior Ministry says the driver lost control, causing the minibus to leave the road, fall into a ravine, and hit a tree. Investigators also found that he did not have the required license category to transport that many passengers. Police arrested the driver, and prosecutors charged him with violating traffic safety rules, an offense that carries up to 10 years in prison when more than 2 people die. Friday the 14th, Ozergeti Mayor Pata Kunchulia of the ruling Georgian Dream, or Kotsebi party, resigned, saying that staying in politics had simply become too difficult. In a lengthy social media post, Kunchulia said he had faced what he described as artificially created problems and felt disappointed by the lack of support from some local officials. He also accused opposition media of constantly looking for failures and problems instead of recognizing the work his administration had done. Julia said these conflicts were not the main reason for his resignation, but contributed to his decision. He did not explain what the main reason was, beyond saying that political life itself had become extremely difficult. On Monday the 17th, local outlets Kartlis Ambebi reported that Soso Mumladze, former Gori council member from the Kotsebi, had been arrested on fraud charges. The prosecutor's office confirmed the arrest, saying that he's been in pretrial detention for a couple of months now. The details of the case remain unclear. Kartlis Ambebi reported that citizens had filed complaints alleging that Mumladze misappropriated money they'd given him for construction projects. On Wednesday the 19th, Georgia's Central Election Commission confirmed only 2 parties registered for the upcoming municipal by-elections, the Kotsebi and the Lelo. The vote takes place on the 3rd of October in 4 municipalities, Vani, Tsalka, Dmanisi, and Akhmeta, filling 4 vacant council seats. These by-elections became necessary because 2 council members died earlier this year, while the other 2 seats opened up after officials had their mandates terminated early. On Tuesday the 18th, the White House named Georgia among 40 countries that China could use to get around U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. The report says Chinese companies can send products through third countries, making minor changes or simply relabel them there and then export them to the U.S. as goods from a different country. Washington specifically identified Georgia's railways and dry ports as potential transit routes for Chinese cargo. Prime Minister Irakli Abkhazia in his haircut rejected the report, saying the U.S. had provided no evidence that Georgia participates in such a scheme. Meanwhile, trade between Georgia and China has grown rapidly, increasing by 21% in 2025, another 45% in the first 4 months of 2026. Georgia imported almost $2 billion worth of Chinese goods in 2025. Last week, a homophobic attack on Koba Partenadze, a Adjara TV journalist, caused a major backlash in social media after he shared a video of a person threatening him. He said he'd faced harassment for some time and accused police of doing nothing about it. After the attack received public attention, police arrested the 2 men involved. One had threatened Partenadze with a knife, while the other directed homophobic insults at him. A court released both men on bail the next day. This week, police arrested Partenadze himself. The Interior Ministry says he insulted police officers while giving evidence as a witness in the case and later violated public order by loudly swearing in public. Officers told him to stop several times, but police say he refused. Partenadze was released later that day and the court fined him 2,000 lari, which is about $800 US. On Monday the 17th, the Georgian government auctioned off the former NATO and EU Information Center building in central Tbilisi for 35 million lari, or about $13 million. The state had initially valued the building at half the price, but businessman Kacha Koba Ivanov bought it for more than twice that amount. Ivanov, who heads Geotech Distribution, reportedly has close ties to senior Kotsebi officials. The center itself closed in June 2025, with its functions moved to the Foreign Ministry. Opposition politicians call the sale symbolic of Georgia's growing distance from the West. For those who don't know, this used to be the U.S. Embassy, and before that, the Orbeliani Palace. Last week, prison authorities stopped a copy of Lasha Bukhadze's novel The Observer from reaching Nana Sander, an inmate serving a sentence for participating in protests. They said the book was political, even though there is no law that bans political books in prisons. The book is about a country with a long dictatorship where people have to vote on whether they want real elections to be held at all. An obvious jab at the current regime. This week, the same book was vandalized at a Biblos bookstore in Tbilisi's Guldani district. A customer who went to buy The Observer noticed pen drawings of male genitalia on its first page. A store employee then found the same drawings on the first pages of all of Bukhadze's books on the shelves. Biblos confirmed the damage, called it vandalism, and removed the affected books from sale while investigating who was responsible. On Tuesday the 11th, the Georgian government approved a new national road safety strategy for the next 4 years. It comes after Georgia's deadliest year for road accidents in the last 7 years. 469 people died and over 8,000 were injured on Georgian roads in 2025 alone. The strategy aims to cut deaths and serious injuries by 25% within the decade. One part targets drunk driving. Officials plan to require alcohol interlock devices in cars, which block the engine from starting if a driver's blood alcohol level is over the legal limit. The other part targets new drivers who are disproportionately involved in road accidents. Government plans to introduce a probation period for them with harsher fines and steeper license point penalties for violations. On Friday the 7th, U.S. Treasury sanctioned Shelbit LLC, a company registered in Georgia, along with its operator, Siavash Kaivanpur. Treasury officials accused them of helping Iran's Revolutionary Guard launder money and dodge sanctions. According to the Treasury, Kaivanpur used the Georgian company to run a separate crypto exchange based in Dubai called Shelbit Exchange. Wallets linked to the Revolutionary Guard sent over $1 million through that exchange. More than $2 million flowed back to the Guard in return. Kaivanpur also moved another $2 million to Iran's largest crypto exchange separately. Georgia's national bank said the company never registered as a virtual asset service provider, amazingly, as required by law for that kind of business, and its Georgian registration had actually been canceled. Related news on Monday, the 10th Economic Policy Research Center said that the number of Iranian companies registered in Georgia has jumped 510% since 2012, topping 12,800 by 2025. Actual Iranian investment stayed tiny in comparison and even turned negative in 2024. So nearly none of that company growth shows up in real money flowing in. Dozens of these firms share the same registration address and most claim to work in trade, real estate, or logistics, though employment numbers have not grown either. Center says this pattern signals shell companies that are used to dodge sanctions or launder funds through countries with light regulation, and warns that Georgia's visa-free access to the EU market make it particularly attractive for that kind of a setup. On Saturday the 15th, Georgian director Uta Beria's feature film Tear Gas won an independent jury prize at the Locarno Film Festival in Switzerland. Beria dedicated the award to 21-year-old Mate Davitadze, who's serving a 4.5-year prison sentence over his participation in the November 2024 protests. Tear Gas follows a fictional story of a 16-year-old Elene and her family as they get caught up in Tbilisi's mass protests. What makes the film stand out is that Beria used real footage of the protests in his movie. In his acceptance speech, Beria said that he dedicated the award to Davitadze for fighting for Georgia's freedom and future. Great essay this week from Georgi Meladze, whose article Questioning the Hidden Hierarchies Within Georgian Society was published in OC Media on August 18th. Meladze uses the murder case of Tbilisi tutor Giga Avaliani as a jumping-off point to dig into something most Georgians recognize but rarely discuss openly: the deep divide between Tbilisi and the provinces. He traces the history of such terms as Soplelebi and Tolvilebi, villagers and refugees, and how they became social labels, not just descriptions. Walks through everything from Soviet-era housing redistribution to Rose Revolution politics to explain how this hierarchy keeps reinventing itself. It's a sharp, honest look at who gets access to Georgia's scarce resources, education, jobs, influence, and who gets shut out. Link to the full article in the show notes. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Anything to ask or tell us, email us at info@rorschach.com. Nachondis.